Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the June 10th, 2021 meeting of Community Board 11 Statement of District Needs and Budget Request Committee. My name is Jason Villanueva and I am the chair of the committee. This meeting is called to order at 6:35 p.m. Tonight we are joined by the Assistant District Manager, Carly Wine, the staff liaison to our committee. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raise hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public, if you have a question or comment about the subjects on the agenda, please raise your hand through Zoom and wait to be recognized. We will now proceed with the roll call. Thank you, Carly.
No problem. Arroyo? Green?
Here.
Malave?
Here.
Meyer?
Here.
Padilla?
Here.
Santiago?
Here.
Villanueva?
Present.
Wu?
Here.
Okay, you have quorum.
Thank you, Carly. Okie dokie. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Committee members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. I don't see no hands, so seeing no hands, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. Moving right along. Adoption of the meeting minutes, we will pass on that because I have yet to submit the minutes. And announcements.
Read this if you would like.
Yeah.
So the City Council has yet to approve the fiscal year 2022 budget, but they will this month, and the budget will go into effect on July 1st, and that in effect starts our budget process for the year ahead, fiscal year 2023, which we will talk about tonight at length. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Carly. Does any of the other members have any announcements? If not, we'll continue with the meeting. Thank you. Forgive my back and forth. You know, I went to the eye doctor today and I'm without my focals, so it's a little challenging reading on the computer. So here we go. Carly sent out a document on the proposed annual statement of district needs and budget timeline and procedure that, you know, I've reached out to some of you and have spoken to about, and I'll turn it over to Carly so she can talk more about it and we can start going through this portion of the agenda.
Okay, so hopefully I don't get tired of my own voice, and hopefully you won't either, but I will just get started now. So as I mentioned in the email that I had sent to you on Monday, Angel had tasked me with drafting a proposal for this committee. that, oh, let me go to the next slide. That provides an overview of the city's budget process and establishes a standard procedure for our involvement in that process. The procedure that I sent over outlines the tasks for each month. It also outlines the roles of the district needs and budget committee, the office staff, and the other board committees, namely the executive committee. Ultimately, the goal of this proposal is to formalize the process that we've already established and also to fill in some gaps that we thought were necessary. This document is intended to serve as a ready reference for current members and a guiding document for future members. Ultimately, we do not want any guesswork as we move through the budget process. I'm just going to pull it up now. So this first section that you see here is intended to provide context about the budget process and define some key terms and tasks that you'll see throughout the timeline. We're not going to read through this whole thing, but Jason and I wanted to see if anyone had any questions, comments, suggestions about the content that's provided here. Specifically, do you understand what we presented? Is there anything missing from the introduction to the budget process that might better orient new members as they move through the process for the first time? So now, Jason, I think that we should open up and take any questions. I sent it to you. Hopefully you had time to review it. I know I received some emails back about just small grammatical things, but if there's any content or context to the budget process that you think would be helpful, I want to invite you to say so.
Well, I'll jump in. Good evening. Thank you, Carly, for this. I have to, again, applaud you. This was outstanding work presented by you and the staff. And I appreciate the opportunity of getting this document. And I know most of us just received the document this week. So you guys are still digesting it. We're gonna take the opportunity to look at it. As Carly said, we're not gonna read line by line, because if there's anything else that sticks out, I think it was covered soup to nuts, honestly. And again, I have to, like I said, it was outstanding work. So with that said, we'll open it up to the floor if there's any questions or concerns, but do take into mind this is the review process. We just got the document, and we'll look to formalize an approval for this by next meeting. But so that should relieve a little bit of pressure. I know we're usually used to being under the gun to get things out. So with that said, I see Giselle has a hand up.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I finally understand what I'm supposed to do here. But this document was great. I wish I could have like something to criticize really, Carly, but it was just like from A to Z. I understand now what the capital, like what the difference between capital and expense budget was, which I still didn't get it, but this lays it out pretty clearly. As a new member, and even like, it's just gonna be super important for the new members, but even the old members too. Like I think during the summertime, this is something that we have to like read. And then the reference links that you put after each section, great job. Because that's what had me mostly tripped up. I didn't know, it was so much reading that I didn't know which document was gonna help me with what. And because you reference like, this is this area, go to these documents, I'm sure that it'll be not a breeze, but it'll be a little bit more easier to do the budget for this year. I know that Osendi had mentioned in that little meeting that we had with Carly and Angel and a couple of other people, we had mentioned she had mentioned the buddy system, which I think is great. If a new member comes in, to link up with the person or people who kind of helped the most do the budget needs for the last year and help guide them step by step. I know that it's easier said than done because people have a lot of things going on, but if it's a new member, definitely like someone to guide them. For example, Xavier and Jason, I know helped me a lot. I don't think I would have been able to do understand exactly what I was doing if it not had been for the constant calls and emails and text messages like, what is this? What is that? So this document was pretty much everything that I think was needed for, it's straight to the point. It's not too long, and it gives you exactly what you need to get through, to get through the year. Yeah, and then the rest of the stuff I'll say a little bit later.
Thank you for that.
You go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, no, I appreciated the comment. If you would like to respond to the buddy system concept, that'd probably be, I don't know how we could add that in. I think we kind of show that in some context.
Yeah, I mean, so we have new members were appointed to our board. So we're reviewing this process now, but we will likely need to review it again at some point. And you'll see as I go through the process that September is a really busy month for us. So it would be ideal that we do that in August. Whether that means doing like a separate orientation or holding a committee meeting, whatever it is. I can't, I guess I'm that's just to say that I can't speak to the buddy system. I think that's something maybe the executive committee could talk about. It's definitely not something I can talk about, but as far as this process goes and cluing in new members, that's gonna need to be done sooner than later because this process is starting now. And we will have new committee members soon. I hope that answers some of your question. Yeah.
Yes, it did. It did. Thank you.
And I'm really glad that you find this helpful. And yeah, and I see Xavier has his hand raised.
Yeah, I was gonna give him the floor next. So you're good, Giselle. Thank you, Carly, for that. Xavier.
Evening, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. And I'm not sure. Hold on, I'm trying to. For those of you who don't know, I can fracture part of my ankle. So I think I don't know if we have any new members on attending because I don't have our list in front of me at the moment. But for the committee and any attendees, I think the larger part of this is one, Carly, thank you. Knocked it out of the park. Appreciate it. And I think when it comes to onboarding, it's one of the things we've discussed is that even in this document or any part of the process, it's okay to say, hey, I don't understand this, because that makes it easier for us as a committee to bring people up to speed, because the idiosyncrasies of the budget process and even the back and forth that happens offline, and a lot of our work should be happening offline. So this is the time to kind of air it. And so when we reconvene, we're better prepared for September. So we do our work over the summer. The committee members are doing the work. I was on youth and education. They talked about it. This is stuff we have to keep our eyes on the ball. So I think this kind of gives us the plot points of what we have to hit. And also too, how it's a continual evolving process, fiscal year to fiscal year. So, so thank you. It's, yeah, it's very, very helpful. And as it comes to any new members, if they have questions, obviously they have their onboarding that'll be done. But I think it's this committee being accessible to a certain extent to be able to help with that process if they have questions. So,
Thank you for your comment, Xavier. Okay, I don't know if I had John or Andrew first, so I will go by the list. John, can you? I'll hear you, and then we can give it to Andrew.
Well, good evening, everybody. I basically just have a question. A training session for new members is a great idea, but also to supplement that, if that's implemented, as far as we see right here, there are no new members on this committee. Since we all are liaison to a committee, could we offer assistance if there are any new members on our committees, like ask questions periodically? Are there any new members who don't understand? And if we can help them understand the process better, to help them in that way.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the comment, brother. Andrew,
So I had sent some very minor changes on just like a substitution for 2 words at the bottom of the document. I mean, when I say minor, I really just want to take the time to say that this was really well done. And it's a very good introduction for anyone who's trying to understand what this timeline looks like. And I just wanted to make sure I expressed my appreciation for the job well done. I think this is a good framework for us to move forward and build on as a committee.
thank you, Andrew, for your comment. Okay, I don't see any other questions or comments on that, so I'll just wrap it up with, I heard the buddy system and I hear the training system. But again, let's definitely, a round of applause for the effort and the work that was performed on this by Carly, because it provides us a foundation. This is something we set our goals for in December of 2020, when we had the discussion about, our 3 major objectives for this year, right? Establishment, education, and engagement. And this document hits, the ball out of the court outside of the active work that we've been doing for the last 6 months, to summarize what this committee has done and is doing and will continue to do through advocacy for our constituents and our board. So I just want to give that, I'm saying that to basically get to the point where this is a start to more defining policy practices and procedures within our committee. But it's a great start, right? So, and I'm saying that because it's the difference between the foundation for a house and the foundation for a city block. And I'll give that analogy some time to set in, because that's where we're going with this. And if there's any other comments, grammatical or even conceptual that you would like to input on, again, we have another month before we, before we decide to not decide, before we take a position on the entire process that's been established for Community Board 11. And make sure you get it into me or Carly. Like I said, I heard the 2 that was brought up today, and I think those are concepts that are going to be further explored as we continue to work on our process and see it come into fruition. So with that said, Carly, I see Xavier has his hands up, but before I recognize Xavier, Carly, do you have any other comments generally to this portion of the scope?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will just say, since I have a scroll here and I have this highlighted, the CB11 Community Engagement Toolkit. So one goal of this, so I mentioned earlier in my remarks that I mentioned earlier that this document is intended to formalize some of the work we've done, including the improvement we made in our community engagement strategy. I really think that it's important that we have a community engagement strategy. And I think that having the survey, having the 2 public hearings, I think that's all a great start. But I also think that there's more that we can do. It's part of the reason why we are releasing the survey this month, and I'll get into that. But one goal of mine after this process is formalized is to create a sort of engagement toolkit to so not only public hearings and the survey serve as public input. The goal is to provide more options for that. But it's important to note that, that proper community engagement requires legwork, not just, by committee members and not just by this committee, but from other committees. So while the toolkit is meant to provide options, it's really up to board members to decide whether or not certain strategies are, within the capacity of their schedule, of other board member schedule. But I did want to say that it is a goal to expand upon the community engagement section. And that's all I'll say.
Thank you, Carly. I think that's a great idea. So it's a great effort. Xavier. Or was your hand up just from earlier?
No, it's fine. I'll raise it again in a little bit. It's I'm just managing the kids. I'll
Okay.
make my comment when it's calmed down.
Okay. This was the part that I wanted us to get a little deep dive, general overview, see if there's anything that sticks out. And particularly for our members that just joined us this year, being well, technically from last year, I would like to know if you see anything that you've experienced in the last year that when you're looking at this document, it would assist you further for next year, or more importantly, if you were a new member and you had this document in front of you, did it correlate? And we don't have to get real deep on that, though that was a deep question. I would like for you to just take a moment and think about the process and how we're outlining the responsibilities of the various members and staff to our efforts towards our action items, as well as to our advocacy efforts for this process.
So I'm
gonna
gonna
be a little challenged reading this, Carly, because
I can zoom in. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, don't okay. So we are going to do month by month overview of this section. So we're going to do that for a few reasons. The submission process, as I mentioned earlier, begins this month. So technically, what we read here for June, that's what we're doing here today. So tonight's goal is not only to review this new proposal or, some new component proposal, but it's also to agree upon what the work plan is for the following fiscal year that starts, this month. So we will be agreeing upon what the work plan is, and that means we're agreeing upon the work that is expected of you, the work that's expected of me, and that said, what Jason just said, if you are still confused about what is expected of you, we want you to raise that here tonight. I will ask you though to reserve the questions for following, until I read everything. So if you need some time to grab a pen and a piece of paper, definitely do that, because I just want to get through this before we take questions. Is that okay with everybody? I see Xavier has his hand raised.
Sorry about that. Post dinner, getting kids ready for bed. So the one thing I want to recommend to all of our members, and I've said it over and over ad nauseum, as we open up connecting with the public, that is the one component. And Carly, you called this out by participation with even online with our form that we sent around. That's been a very much a hit and miss, and I think we could improve on that, and at least, if not directing people to the URL, but also to even taking sheets out for direct feedback where they can submit. I think now, as the summer comes along, getting that information, and with those that are willing, because we do have block parties and family days, I think that may be an opportunity for us to connect for those that feel confident in doing so. So this just, again, that's one of the things that's very important, is that we represent the community. If we're not connecting with the community, then we're acting in a bubble ourselves. And I think that's part of our remit, is to be servicing and serving the community at large. So that's just my one recommendation, to make sure that we don't lose that focus.
Thank you for your comment, Xavier. Carly, you can continue with the with the work plan.
Okay, so we're gonna start with June, and I guess before I do, I want to note that this document, as you can see, organizes the tasks by month, but also by responsible party, and it's not necessarily in order. And it might be a little bit confusing as I move through it, and I recognize that now. For the section in June, it cites a work plan, and it has a link here to that work plan. And I have it here, and I will show you it following, and it goes month by month, and it is in order. So, but for the sake of reviewing this, reviewing this proposal, I'm going to stick with this document, and everything that is on this sheet and on the work plan is listed on this document, so nothing is missed. Okay, so June, as I mentioned in the announcements, I'm just going to minimize the videos. As I mentioned in the announcement, the city council is going to be adopting the budget for fiscal year 22, which is the fiscal year we just did all of that work on, and that's going to begin on July 1st. And this month also, our budget process begins for fiscal year 23. So really, this schedule goes from June to May, and the budget process never ends, and we never get a break. So starting with staff, within the next 2 weeks, I will be publishing the public input survey, and I reached out to the Department of City Planning to see if they added anything to the survey template they had given us, and that's what we based that survey off of, because it correlates directly with the form we fill out. And I will also be scheduling the district budget consultations for the end of this month through the end of July, and maybe some in August. I have not scheduled any yet, and that is because the budget has not been adopted, and many agencies won't want to schedule meetings until it's adopted. And I'm also responsible for all of the admin work, and that will be consistent through the schedule. The District Needs and Budget Committee. We're doing that now. We're reviewing the district needs and budget work plan for the upcoming fiscal year, and we're going to submit it to the executive committee for approval. So that does require a vote tonight on the work plan for fiscal year 23. The executive committee will then approve it. I'm going to move on, have some resources here. In July and August, the community board conducts the district budget consultations with the city agencies, and the public engagement strategy is ongoing through mid-August. I mentioned here an optional town hall, and I'll get to that. Once again, the staff is doing all of the admin work, including coordinating the meeting logistics for the consultations and providing those summaries to you all if you're not in attendance, to further inform the budget process and keep you informed. We prepare the questions for the borough budget consultations, which happen in September and October. They're due in July. I will be monitoring the input that comes in, and this is a big one. So the staff, according to this proposal, ultimately winds up drafting the statement of district needs with the support of the District Needs and Budget Committee, and will also be largely responsible for the analysis of the data that is collected. We welcome support, but we will carry that responsibility. The District Needs and Budget Committee, we encourage the committee to meet regularly during the summer months to recap the district budget consultations and the outreach efforts. As Xavier mentioned, there's a lot of events happening around the district, and I agree that it's wise to utilize those events to collect input. Another option here is to host a community district needs town hall. We would recommend that this happen the last week of July. I mentioned earlier that we can only improve upon public input. The more we receive, the better, and it is within the community board's role to host a town hall and collect public input that way. As long as I've been here, it's not something that the community board has done, but it is up to you to decide if that's what you want to do at the end of July. And then finally, we are relying on both the District Needs and Budget Committee and the other committees to participate in the engagement efforts and help get the word out about the survey. So moving on to September. I hate how this is separated. So in September, this is our busy month. So it's really busy. So ultimately, this is the start of the community board session. This is when the ball gets rolling about just pretty much everything. We have to host a public hearing on the community district needs. The feedback obtained in the public hearing, along with the public input from the summer's engagement activities, inform the draft statement of district needs that the staff is drafting with support from the district needs and budget committee. The city hosts the borough budget consultations at which all community boards in each borough meet with agency representatives. All right, so once again, staff is coordinating all of the public hearing logistics, all of the meeting logistics. We're continuing to analyze, I'm just gonna edit it while I'm here, data collected from the public input survey and other engagement strategies. We're gonna, ultimately, when the time comes for it to be submitted and everything's ready, we will, oh, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. So we submit the draft statement of district needs to you, the district needs and budget committee, for review. And we'll also be working with the budget liaisons on committee report backs and recommendations for budget requests. So all of that analysis that the staff does, we then work with the budget liaisons, the committee members that sit on other committees to report back to their committees what the public input was and what they recommend based on that public input. This proposal really emphasizes the importance of committee report backs, not just to their respective committees, but also from those committees to the district needs and budget committee. It's that sort of collaboration that will make this work. And then finally, we participate in the borough budget consultations. So the district needs and budget committee, again, summarizes results of the public engagement strategy, and that is at the meeting, at the district needs and budget committee meeting. And so the idea is you summarize the results of that strategy and review the preliminary draft statement of district needs, and then open it up to the public hearing. So we host the public hearing on the community district needs. It's also optional for the district needs and budget committee members to attend the borough budget consultations respective for the agencies relevant to their committees that they sit on, separate from the district needs and budget committee. So yeah, I just want to emphasize once more that the staff will be drafting the statement of district needs, but we're relying on feedback and input to staff. And okay, and then at the individual committee meetings in September, budget liaisons report on findings from the public input survey and accompanying recommendations for budget requests. And then the committee will hopefully provide feedback. The executive committee will review the draft statement of district needs post the review done by this committee. So another thing that is another element to this proposal that's a little bit different than what we've done before is that we want to focus on the statement of district needs in September, like the focus of the committee meetings, separate from district needs and budget committee, will be on the statement of district needs and providing reports on what the public input was on the district needs. October is going to be the month where we really hone in on the budget requests. That said, the district needs and budget committee will still be kind of doing that work in their recommendations based on the public input. I hope that wasn't too confusing. Write down your questions if it was. Okay, moving on to October. So in October, we finalized the list of budget requests to be submitted to OMB by October 31st. The district needs and budget committee meets following all other committee meetings and before the full board meeting. So it's the last committee to meet, except for executive and full board. So in October, following the analysis of district needs and the recommendations the staff and the budget committee come up with based on those district needs, the staff will then disseminate a spreadsheet, as we have in the past, of the annual budget request to the board committees. This document will reflect responses to prior fiscal year's budget request contained in the adopted budget and the recommendation for new requests based on the public input. So the district needs and budget committee and the staff have already been working and looking at the budget request, but it's not until October that the committee reviews it all. And then when the time comes, the staff we will submit the final statement of district needs and budget request after the full board approval vote using the form that's provided by the Department of City Planning. Moving on to the district needs and budget committee, at our meeting, so this is referring to our district needs and budget committee in October, we will discuss the input from committees on budget requests. And this is kind of out of order, and I'm sorry if that's confusing. And we will also prioritize the requests based on needs and submit that prioritized list to the executive committee. The committees will review the budget request and make recommendations for additions and removals. All of the guidance comes from the committee. So what the district needs and budget committee discusses, it all comes from the committee. We're there to serve as a point of reference. And then finally, the executive committee will review and vote on the final budget requests and priorities. And that is the bulk of the work. September and October are our busy months. That's where we do a lot of the legwork, aside from all of the legwork we're doing over the summer with the community engagement strategy. We're hoping that by separating the statement of district needs and budget request into the two separate months, one, it makes the committees be more engaged and not only have them be more engaged, but it makes it less confusing because it makes sense to talk about the district needs before we make recommendations for requests to address those district needs. So we ordered it that way for a reason. And way back when, it actually used to be submitted separately before they revamped the process, before I even knew what a community board was. Okay, so moving on to November, December. Nothing really happens here. It's optional. We can review the November plan. The November plan is not, we don't have a formal role on that. It's not really anything. What it is an update from the mayor's office on the spending from fiscal year 22. So it's like, it's not related to fiscal year 23. But if we did want to meet, we could talk about the November plan, use that to inform our own process moving forward. Or we can, do what we did last year and invite electeds to talk about the budget. But these are kind of our break months. This is like the 2 months. It's like our summer months, November and December. And then January, it begins again, but not until the end of January. So the mayor releases the preliminary budget in mid-January. It's kind of up in the air when that comes out. Sometimes it's like January 15th and other times it's a week after. Community boards then have 30 days to review and comment on the preliminary budget. So at the end of January or whenever it comes out, I will be disseminating the preliminary budget documents received from the Office of Management and Budget to board members and I will also post it on the board website. And then the district needs and budget committee will review those documents. But since it's kind of up in the air when the budget will be released, the committee will either meet at least 7 days following the release of the budget or on the last Thursday in January. In February, we are required to host a public hearing on the preliminary budget and draft a statement in response by mid-February. Committees must decide whether they would like to testify at the city council hearings on the preliminary budget, which are held throughout March. So the two primary goals of February are to decide what to include in the response to the preliminary budget and whether or not the committees want to testify at the public hearings in March. So the staff, once again, the staff's going to be doing most of the writing. It's worked out that way in the past, and we might as well formalize it and make it make sense within the process. So we'll be drafting the statement on the preliminary budget, but we will be expecting support from the District Needs and Budget Committee. Once again, the committee is going to meet following the rest of the committees, and the committee members of the District Needs and Budget Committee will be expected to report back on the committee discussion that happened elsewhere. And then also, I think I might have forgotten to mention this. I mentioned it in September, but another big change is that the District Needs and Budget Committee will be hosting all of the public hearings. So just all of the work that has to do with the budget will be done at the District Needs and Budget Committee meetings, including the public hearings. Committees will finalize the list of requests to respond to in the statement on the preliminary budget, and will reach a consensus regarding providing public testimony at City Council hearings on the budget. And then the Executive Committee will vote to ratify the statement on the preliminary budget. So the staff and the District Needs and Budget Committee will, work together on drafting the statement, but we will be relying on feedback from the committees and expecting them to guide us on what requests they want to respond to. Moving forward to March. So the City Council will host public hearings on the preliminary budget throughout March. The Community Board is encouraged to provide testimony. It's not mandatory. Board committees may testify in relation to their respective agencies. Noticed this before. So a note that public testimony that restates a position of CB11 may be submitted to and voted on by the appropriate committee. Public testimony that either expands upon or is not yet a position of the board must be submitted to and voted on by the full board. So basically what we did, we actually implemented this exact process for the executive budget in April and May. So you might be familiar with it already. March, we will support the staff, will support committees in drafting testimony. The District Needs and Budget Committee will, it's optional, testify in the preliminary budget at City Council committee meetings. And the committees will sign off on the committee testimony, and it's subject to a committee vote depending on what is in the testimony, whether if it expands upon a position. So it's really the committees that are doing that work in conjunction with the District Needs and Budget Committee liaison, and I'm there to support, or whoever the staff liaison is there to support. In April, the mayor releases the executive budget. Community boards have 30 days to review and comment on the budget. So it says mid-April here. Last month, they released it on April 26th. And this year, the city released it on April 26th, if you recall, and we had 2 days to review it. So that's normally the turnaround. And this is very similar to January, where the staff will disseminate the executive budget documents to board members and post the documents on the board website. And the District Needs and Budget Committee will meet either a week following the release of the budget or on the last Thursday in April, which is usually, or hopefully after the release of the budget. And there we will review the executive budget documents and compare to the preliminary responses. And then finally in May, the City Council will host public hearings on the executive budget throughout May. We just did this. The Community Board is encouraged to provide testimony. This is the same language that's in March about public testimony that restates the position, may be submitted and voted on by the committee. Testimony that expands upon a position that hasn't been taken yet must be submitted to and voted on by the full board. Staff, and this is again the same as March, where the staff supports committees in drafting testimony. The District Needs and Budget Committee testify on the executive budget at the City Council committee meetings or submit it in writing. It's optional. Committees reach a consensus regarding providing public testimony at City Council hearings. and the executive committee votes on the public testimony if it expands upon previous positions taken by the board. So yeah, that is it. And I am open to any questions.
Thank you,
And-
Carly. I think
Thank
that
you.
was amazing. That was amazing. I think just to give a little bit of structure to the Q&A, if we could just, go over like how you got it now, January, February, March, April, and then to take any feedback there, especially if there's any edits or ads requested, so that way we can get a concise vote. So with that said, does anybody have any questions, concern? I mean, and let's try to be specific, not too general, because again, our efforts is to act on this tonight. So I just want to make sure that we use the time as efficiently as possible. So with that said, January, any questions, concerns, or edits that you think should happen? I see Giselle. Nope. Okay. February. Can you blow it back up, Carly? I'm sorry, my vision is. Forgive everybody. I know you 2020 guys. I'm sorry. I know it's probably worse when you can see it. Thank you so much, Carly. So February process is pretty much there. I don't see any questions, concerns. March. Okay. April. Okay, March, April, right? This was put very well together, Carly. Thank you. May. June.
I'm sorry, Jason, it got confusing because it actually, the
I know
process,
it starts, you started based off the fiscal cycle. That was my fault. I did the calendar. June, this is what we're doing now. This is a great, right? Established process, it creates protocol and most important procedure, right? So everybody's aware of who's doing what, why, and more importantly, how to collaborate. So I really love this, and that's the project manager in me screaming how much I love this. July, August. I have one comment, and I'll let Giselle jump in after. It's not going to be optional. I think optional should be taken out. As it relates to district needs and budget committees action of hosting a town hall. I think that, again, we're going to try to, we could talk a little bit about this tonight. But I do, again, I'm a firm believer in practicing what we preach. And it's real difficult to tell other people to advocate and coordinate when you're not doing it, right? And I'm not speaking just for you as an individual. Think about the body. Think about what we're trying to do as a subset to this organization and the impact we want. So if I'm, pushing and requesting and advising other people to engage with community-based organizations, it's only in the interest that outside of the formal process, which I love Carly didn't give any option because that's the formal legal process. Public hearings have to happen. But this being the informal process, but maybe formal to our constituent services that's under the charter mandate, that it's not optional. So, if anybody wants to contest or has a advisement against why they think that maybe through the summer months, the district needs committee, while listening to getting input from the surveys, getting input, because if you're a liaison or you're on a committee, the hope is that you're reviewing not only the work plan of the district needs committee, but the work plan for your particular committee. And with that said, this gives that another opportunity for that cross collaboration to happen. And this committee doesn't do too many community district events with engagement. So I think it's great to formalize it and mandate it. So that's my piece. Anybody got any questions, comments, just to that particular item? I know you had your hand up already, Giselle. I don't know if it's just to
I
that.
did. For June, since June is kind of like the last month where we meet with our committees. I say this because like I'm the liaison from Echo Dev, so I think when I see June and it says prepare and review district needs and budget work plan, I guess I would be doing that with my mindset in DSN, not really with my mindset in Echo Dev and DSN, because if they're off, I mean, I know that I can always a phone call, an email, but not gathering with the committee in a formal meeting, will we be able to actually prepare and like will we be able to do this without them? Because this would be kind of like our stuff that we're doing in June, a part of this committee, right? Maybe I'm confused.
Yeah, is it okay if I take that, Jason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll jump.
Yeah, so this is a statement of district needs. So to answer your question briefly, this is more of a statement of district needs and budget committee than it is an eco dev committee thing. But that said, there's a reason why we're submitting this work plan to the executive committee, because we do need the other committees to be on board, and the executive committee is comprised of leadership from the other committees. So that is why the executive committee is so integral in this proposal, because we really do need collaboration and buy-in from committee leadership. So the work plan, though, is really, first we're reviewing it with this committee, making sure we're all on board. We know what our responsibilities are, and then we submit that to the executive committee. Does that clarify?
Thank you. Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie has her hand raised.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Okay. So if I'm understanding this right, this is the work plan. This is what we're submitting. This is what we're asking to be okay for the executive board so we can move forward in the next coming months, right? And then my second question is, for in July and August, are we committing to meeting in July and in August now? Is that like the conversation we're gonna eventually have today to then also submit this to the executive board to be approved?
Okay, to answer your first question, yes. So this is the work plan. This is the timeline that we are looking to formalize on a board level. But this work plan, I mentioned, I don't know if you were here for it. I refer to it here. There's a template for it here. And this is everything that is listed in that timeline. So yes. Short answer is yes, that is the work plan that we're agreeing upon. Your second question is, is the committee agreeing to meet in July and August? I think I think ideal, yes. Answer is yes. And
I'll second, and I'll help you with that. The answer is yes.
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 So Jason referenced the community district needs town hall. That would be that would be a meeting.
Yeah, the item would happen. Any of the items that have been brought up, they're happening during committee meetings. There are times when it can happen outside of a committee meeting. The town hall concept is, that's when I start thinking symposium, but of course we could formalize that on our agenda of our committee meeting, so we can have a town hall during our committee meeting. That I know.
I do want to kind of hold that question though, because I think we need to talk about whether or not is the best time to hold a town hall? Like, do we do the whole meeting introduction and have that be the town hall? I think that's something that I would need to take back to Angel, who is actually on this call, but I don't know if he has the answer now. And I think that might be worthy of more discussion. I don't want to say anything definitively.
Gotcha, thank you.
But we had also talked about how we will be having, there will be new members. The constitution of this committee like may be different, will likely be different as by August. And we talked about how September is a really busy month, but that's also the month that most committees meet for the first time. And I think it would be wise to help introduce the work of the committee prior to that meeting, because that's the thick of it. And in my opinion, like as I in observing the last fiscal year process, it was confusing for newer members who were brand new to the board, and they were suddenly engaged in this very intense process, and it was a lot to ask of them. And I don't know. I want to make sure that we set our new and existing members up for success, and that's another reason why this proposal exists. So I feel like I kind of rambled on a little bit there, but I hope that answered your question a little bit. Okay.
Jason, may I just say something briefly? And I won't speak too long because I missed the beginning, stuck in traffic, my apologies. I wanted to be here earlier to just kind of listen in and pipe in where needed. But I did want to say something to that point about new members coming on in September, and then suddenly, boom, you're talking about district needs. I think what this offers is kind of an engaging way in, right? So if new members are attending, for example, that town hall, they're hearing from existing members that have been doing work, whatever the existing members are reporting, but they're also hearing from the community that's testifying and saying, hey, look, my block needs this, my block needs that. And it's bringing them face to face with the need as being communicated by the community very directly. So I think it's a good way, a good simple way to get members, get new members into the process without first being faced with, here's a whole massive stack of paper and data. Hearing voices and hearing personal experience and personal testimony, I think is a good way to kind of orient them, onboard them.
Thank you, Angel. And I actually have, and I had thought of this, I have been thinking about this so much the last few months that my brain is full of it. But one thing I had thought of was, I know that the summer months are, the summer, and that's the time the community board tends to, typically breaks. I really do think that it's important that we continue the engagement through the summer and continue meeting through the summer. And I had thought that that's why November and December, there's not really anything, there's nothing on the schedule. There's nothing related to this very specific process. And I think that could be viewed as the break, if that is what the committee wants. But I do think that it's important that the committee stay engaged throughout the summer months. Giselle has her hand raised, and then Stephanie.
I was just gonna say that if we do start earlier within the summer months, it'll still be intense to a certain extent in September, but it won't be, the workload won't be as intense and it won't be as intimidating. So it'll leave us time to obviously get the correct work done, and then it'll leave us time to focus like on the town halls, like Angel was saying, the connecting with the community and the people, and as opposed to just wrapping your mind these 2 months around that, but you have already started in the summertime, it'll make it easier, and then you can still focus on other things that'll make the budget process easy too. So think it's a good idea.
Don't have to be scared.
Stephanie. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know. I didn't know you guys said Stephanie. So I have a quick, sorry. So my question is the surveys, because I'm looking at our work plan, and it looks like in July and August, we should be analyzing the data collected. So when do we actually send out the survey? Like, when does the link go out so people can start responding to the survey?
Have here, I would like to get it out by the end of next week. I am waiting on a response from the Department of City Planning on whether or not they are updating the format of the survey and any questions. So I'm waiting back on them, but I ideally would like to get it out this week and well, next week, I'm sorry. And if not next week, then the week after. Like it has to be, it has to be released this month so that throughout July and August, we're collecting that input, and we're aiming to close the survey in mid-August. So that we have ample time to analyze it ahead of September committee meetings.
So basically the idea is to have them have a sufficient amount of surveys responses by the, right?
Mid-August is
And I'll jump in. That's practically speaking as well. And idealistically, you know, this survey is starting with the new fiscal cycle because come June, the budget, right? We got the executive budget. It'll get adopted this month, and then we're starting the process all over again for next year, starting next month. So I hope that provides a little bit of clarity as well. Giselle?
The surveys are just going to be sent out through internet, Carly, or do we somehow take part in like getting this public input?
Yeah, so I mean, we're certainly going to send it out through the internet, so through email, through our newsletter, through our social media, hopefully through community partners. I have another tab here that ultimately identifies community partners that could help us out with this effort. But I envision it, and this is where the engagement of, you all and also other committees and the rest of the board membership. I think it's important. I think that we need to utilize like the events that are happening over the summer, and it doesn't have to be like every week. I know that's a heavy lift, but I think that we should certainly aim to attend a few different events and capture input, like have a table, capture input that way. Details on how that happens and like what that looks like. Well, we can talk about that. I don't want to commit to anything tonight. Here to talking with Angel.
No, and more importantly, I mean, I'll chime in. That work plan, we're approving a process. The procedure will be definitely defined at the executive level. So there's always that opportunity for more input to figure out how to get that out. But I would say, the engagement it's our mandate, right? And that's the attitude behind the survey. In my opinion, the faster it goes out and the longer the window's open, the more people we could capture. So my challenge and thought would be like to the next chair of statement of district needs would be, okay, this year we got 5,000 participants a part of the survey, organizations and or persons, however you want to count it. And now our target this year is 10,000. I mean, there's 100,000 residents in our district. So, and there's 50 of us. And if we can activate 50% of the board with that 6 degrees, I'll let you do the math. Hopefully we can capture those amount of people. But last year they did it through, I think, Google Forms. I know I filled it out both as a member of the district and as a board member. So, you know,
Yeah, and I also want to add that, just opining off of Jason saying there's 50 of you, you all were appointed to the board, and were identified as, community members with standing and with connections. And I think it's really important that you utilize your network and you send this out to your network, your neighbors, your family members, your friends. We need your support in that way too. Giselle has a restaurant.
I'm even thinking like, and then, all these chairs like to go to events and take photo ops. So take the survey with you too. We print it out, people can fill it out. But the closed mouths don't get fed. So the faster that we can get the opportunities out to our constituents, our brothers and sisters to get us the information, the more efficient and better it is for us as a committee to process it, and more importantly for the board to execute upon it. So I think that, that's a task of we're defining the practice, or let me rephrase that. We're defining the standard. That would be a task asked to the chairs and or leadership to further define how we figure to practice it. Today it may be the internet. Tomorrow it might be, a text blast, because we found a company that'll do it for us for free, or a robocall like we did for the other thing. But I think that's up to the body as well to figure out further how to engage on that. I hope that answers your question, Giselle.
Yes, it does. I wasn't sure if there was like a conflict somehow of like, but if I can put the if I can somehow spread the public input in whatever way, sure, the more the better.
Oh, there is no conflict.
Okay.
Think conflict of interest with the word check. But outside of that, you ain't getting a check and you're giving your time. The only conflict is you doing your volunteership. But I understand. I understand the comment. And for those that are challenged with that concept, I do recommend the, in all seriousness, the borough president's training is very informative to know when you're conflicted or not. Stephanie, you have another question?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, is there any way we can do like the QR codes or anything for that website? Because I just feel like since the world has changed and ever since COVID, everyone has access to like an iPad or a phone. And if we just had like a code that they can scan in, kind of like when you go to the restaurants.
Yeah,
I'm sure
you also gotta have the phone for that.
But
No,
but
I
how
know,
many,
I'm with you. I agree.
we have
That's
a lot more
another, that would be another like process or practice that we could perform to further engage with the community.
or also even like a bit.ly, like a shorter version of the URL that we're giving to everyone. Just something that's quick and easy to forward to people.
Yes. Answer is yes. We can do that.
Do we have to like vote on that or something?
No.
No.
I'll jump on that one. Absolutely not. Mr. Green.
Well, I just want to commend the staff and everybody here on the committee to going to summer school with this, because I know for a long time, my first few years on the board, it was like a grind getting this done, like between September and November. So getting it done during the summer, it makes it a lot easier, and it takes a lot of stress off getting it done, because it has to get done.
Agreed, Green. And again, these are target timelines. I mean, if the committee itself is very actively engaged, visualize it. It's no different than, you're paying your bill. After a while, it gets to a point where you're projecting. So, the goal is, if in a strategic plan mindset, 5-10 years down the line, committees are, a year to 2 years ahead of the fiscal cycle in their advocacy. I know that's a real big picture concept, but it's definitely a dream that I've always looked at with being a part of this committee, because I know that level of engagement assists the district. on all sides. So I think it was a great point, John. So I don't see anything wrong with the summer practice. If any of you have been here long enough for the last 3, 4, 5 years, we meet every summer anyway. Whether it was, we figured out over time how to do it, appropriately with formalizing, and then we give off, the holidays, which is November and December, and what we try to look for education. But I am in full agreement with Carly. It's real challenging, and it's an unrealistic expectation to the new membership as well as the current membership, especially when some committees close over the summer. Not all do, because when the board has business, we have to meet. And this is, we're a financial committee, theoretically speaking, so we operate off a different calendar year. We operate off the fiscal cycle as opposed to the regular calendar year. And if anybody's got questions to that, you have my number. We could talk a little further offline, if that seems to be a challenge or presents to be a challenge. But again, if the work is happening a lot more, proactively, then the meetings that happen like tonight don't run 5, 6 hours. You can have an hour, 2-hour meeting, review it, approve it, and move forward. So that takes care of July and August. Carly, I like September, if you could do it. Maybe use the other document if you don't mind. Again, it helps my eyes. But the work plan is what you're looking at, that Carly, again, this is administrative. There's some, minor errors. It'll be fixed by before it goes in front of executive, but the work plan you see is exactly what what she showed in the Excel format, is what we're looking to use as a guidance strategy and target, for all the committees. So this is July and August. Outside of my personal opinion for July with the optional town hall, and I think we do need to talk a little bit more about that, about the formality of it, but I do not think that it needs to be optional. I think that the committee should be driven in that mindset already. With us kicking it off in the summer, it definitely will help other committees, because people do meet, and those of us that are community-based organizations are constantly meeting over the summer with our community members. So, all right, no other questions on July and August. We'll go to September. Again, and thank you everybody for your input. It's very helpful, real crucial too. Because these questions that are presented today, I need not tell you, they're gonna come at full board. So I'd rather us drag it out now, and that way it's easier for me as the chair to deliver it to the board. September, I see every point hit. Any other questions, concerns for September? Excuse me, no? October? Any QA? November? And December. And I like to leave that open, honestly, because I think that gives opportunity. Remember, this is a process. We're reviewing it as a plan to approve it. And then we're looking next month to review the entire process as a whole. But with that said, if we get the work plan approved, which we're looking forward to in the next few minutes, there's always opportunity for revisions in the future, whether it's through you, the board, or Carly, or your future chair. So, any other questions? I saw a hand up and then down. Okay.
All right, so as I mentioned earlier, one of the goals of tonight was not not only to review the proposal, but also agree to a work plan, and the work plan would require a vote. So if there's no more questions, then
Yeah, I'll jump in that part, Carly. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I was leaving it open just in case, I was giving you space, let the cobwebs kick. If not, do I have a motion for approval of the work plan for fiscal year 2023?
Motion.
Oh, we don't raise our hands. We don't know what we're doing.
Motion by Andrew, seconded.
Second,
I presume Giselle or Stephanie?
oh, Stephanie, sorry.
Stephanie, sorry, thank you.
okay, so that, just to be clear, that motion was to approve the work plan for fiscal year 2023. Can I get it?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you, Andrew.
Yes.
I'm gonna go through the roll call. Arroyo,
Yes.
Green,
Aye.
Malave,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Padilla,
Yes.
Santiago,
Yes.
Villanueva,
Yes,
Wu. Okay, motion carries. You're all here, that's great.
unanimously. Great work, everyone. Great work, Carly. Thank you so much. Okay, moving the agenda along. Old business. Do we have any old business anybody would like to bring up? New business? Okay.
Giselle has her hand raised.
I have one question. I wanted to know if it was possible for the DCN to meet after all the other committees have met in a month, but like before full board, because I know that last year, sometimes we were meeting before certain committees met.
Well, I'll jump in on that. It's always about crunch time, right? So if you look at it in quarters, every 3 months, something we have to task. We'll meet after all the committees and before full board when we have to submit, when we have to take action. The other months, given the schedule, that flexibility allows a little bit more opportunity for other committees to have conversations that would happen before or after. And the reason I say that is because through the other months, I would challenge your chair, in this case me, to cross communicate with their committee members during those scattered months, because I understand the intent of wanting it like that every other month, but usually the executive committee meets before full board, and that's to deal with any other challenges for the board in its entirety. We get the cursor of that month when it's a budget month, if you want to call it that, where they let us meet last, and it's been working out great. Kudos to Angel and Carly with Nelson and Xavier with scheduling that, because I know it's not easy. So I hope that answers. And if you want, we could definitely discuss it a little bit more deeper.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. That's it? Carly, can you take the roll call for adjournment, please?
Sure. Arroyo,
Here.
Green,
Here.
Malave,
Here.
Meyer,
Here.
Padilla,
Here.
Santiago,
Here.
Villanueva,
Here.
and Wu.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Carly. Seeing that we have no further business or hands are raised, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:55 PM. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your efforts in getting this action out to further assist with communicating with our community and our advocacy efforts.